Hey, what's going on, guys? This is your boy, Rajan Sharma, one half of the Dream Team Give and Go podcast. Today, I know we say this a lot, but we have a very special episode of the Give and Go podcast. My co-host, Jordan Taylor, had a very special interview with award-winning Canadian filmmaker Kat Jayme, who is the director, writer, and executive producer of the new film that just came out called Finding Big Country. Now, this premiered at the Vancouver International Film Festival just a couple weeks ago, and we're very excited to have an opportunity to sit down with Kat and talk about her journey in finding big country, seeing and meeting her hero in real life, and also being the first person to contact Bryan Big Country Reeves in the last 15 years and actually get a sit down with him, which for any Vancouver basketball fan or sports fan or just Vancouverite that remembers having the Grizzlies in town, you know just how much Bryan Big Country Reeves meant to the city and the community of Vancouver. Kat here has done an amazing job bringing the basketball spotlight back to Vancouver, and hopefully this will lead to a future where basketball returns to the city of Vancouver, which, if you listen to the Give and Go podcast, you know we've been waiting for it, and you know we're ready for it, and Kat is ready too. So, without further ado, let's get to the interview. We got Jordan Taylor with his one-on-one sit-down with Kat Jayme. Let's give and go.
Beautiful basketball, the Sixers are give and go. NBA, give and go.
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to a very special episode of the Give and Go podcast. I am your host, Jordan Taylor. My co-host, Rajan Sharma, not here with us right now, but I've got a pretty good replacement for you guys today. I would like everyone to give a warm Give and Go welcome to the writer, director, and co-star of the new documentary, Finding Big Country, Kat Jayme. Kat, how are you doing?
I'm good. Thank you so much for having me.
Oh, absolutely. Wonderful to have you on the podcast. So for those of you that don't know, Finding Big Country is this little documentary that is a lot bigger than I think I ever anticipated it ever becoming. It's essentially the story of Bryant Big Country Reeves and what happened to him, the iconic Grizzlies draft pick when he used to play in Vancouver, and where he is now. Now, so for Kat, she found Bryant Reeves, something that hasn't been accomplished by writers, by sports broadcasters, by anyone since Bryant left Vancouver in 2001 with the team. So I guess the first question for you, Kat, is something I was always taught is never meet your heroes. But I think you have something to say along that famous quote, hey?
For sure. I mean, that's definitely something that did worry me because I've obviously heard that as well. And it just so happened that Bryant is one of the most, if not the most amazing human. And I know I keep saying this, in all our Q&As after the screenings, but he was just, he exceeded my expectations. And like I say in the film, there's a line where I talk about how it is risky when you meet your childhood hero because you put them on this pedestal and, you made them something in your mind and they never asked to be that. So there's a good chance that they're not going to meet those expectations. But yeah, Bryant exceeded all of mine. He's just an incredible human being. And I think that shines through in the film. You really get a sense of who he is as a person and as a friend and as a family man and father.
Yeah. Now, I mean, there was a scene at the very beginning of the film, and I used to think that I was the number one Vancouver Grizzlies fan. And then you go into Kat's childhood closet, and I am not even on the radar anymore. Like, the memorabilia, like Kat is a basketball fanatic when it comes to the Grizzlies. So it's a problem, really. I think it's a good problem to have. I think that passion is definitely, led to something like this in this film. Mm-hmm. I mean, definitely an exciting venture. So I want to ask you what the original goal or the expectations were if you ever got a chance to meet Big Country? You know, you start calling people, you start figuring out how to get in contact with them. What was the end goal?
It's funny because, you know, a lot of people had been messaging me saying, you know what, I knew he was in Gans, and, you know, those were sort of what people would, like, you know, that was the only thing I knew was that he was back home. But whether or not he spoke to anyone or did any media was, you know, in that sense, he really disappeared because he didn't, he hasn't agreed to do any sort of media interviews since the Grizzlies left town. And then when I spoke to all the old Grizzlies workers, his teammates, his coaches, like no one has actually spoken to him since the Grizzlies moved to Memphis. Like Mike Bibby, Sharif, none of them have spoken to him in 17 years. So they have no idea like where exactly he is. Like there are rumors that he's home, but you know, no one has actually gotten in touch with him. So I guess I needed his permission to make this film. You know, ethics in documentaries is something I take very seriously. So I don't think I would have made this film without his permission, without his blessing, and same with his family. And so that very first initial contact, when I spoke to him, I needed him on board this project. Otherwise, you know, I don't think it would have made for a good film if I didn't find him in the end. But also, I'm not sure if I actually would have made something without his permission.
No, I totally agree. And I'm just glad that he said yes, because, I mean, we got to see into the life of this guy and a little bit from his side. And you mentioned previously about how honest and open the man is. And it definitely does shine through in your documentary. So I was at one of the sold-out filmings early in October, and absolutely loved the film. It was wonderful. Now, when you go up and do your interviews at the end of each screening, one of the things you did mention was that you had a lot of extra material that you had to remove from the final edit. Like, how many minutes are we talking here? And is there, like, a director's cut can I buy? Like, I'll give you my credit card right now. Like,
it's good to know. No, this is good to, like, oh my gosh, there are so many, like that so, I do play basketball with him, and, you know, it's a quick game. We played 2 games, and even before that, he actually taught me all his signature Bryant Reeves moves, and we spent literally, like, maybe an hour, more than an hour in his gym. And it's kind of embarrassing because I'm a point guard, so I don't really, you know, my post moves aren't the greatest. And so he's teaching me, like, his like, turnaround jumper, his, like, and it's just, and going left side, right side, and I'm, like, messing up a lot of the time, and he's telling me, like, you're thinking too much, like, and he's being such a good sport and such a good coach. And then another scene that got cut, and I'm not sure if this is the story I told, but when I left his house, I actually had a huge bag of things for him to sign, and he signed all of them willingly. And it was like a Mary Poppins bag, and I just kept on like, and can you sign this? And can you sign this? And then one of the last things I pulled out were about like 70 basketball cards, and we went back into his house in his kitchen, and he sat down and he signed every single one of them. Which was, I mean,
it's amazing.
I always say, and I always say this too, like no other NBA player, I can't think of anyone who would have given me the time of day. Like the fact that he, like, not only did he open his, like, you know, welcome me and my crew onto his property, he opened his doors to him and his family, but he really took the time to get to know me and my crew and spent pretty much every day with us and did, whatever I asked him to do. He was always game. And he even, the interview that we had with him, we had it over a span of 2 days, and he was sitting on the most uncomfortable wooden chair. I felt so bad. And we had him in this chair for 2 hours every day. So I had him for, I think the entire interview, was a total of like 4 hours. So he was such a sport. Like I asked him every question that you can think of. And, again, my hat goes off to Bryant Reeves. He's an incredible, athlete and just human being.
Wow. It's unbelievable. Just, I mean, going back to your story about, point guard getting top post moves, I also play point guard. So I feel you in a sense, wow, this is great if I was actually tall enough to use it. So,
yeah, for sure.
So the first time I ever saw the film, and this is a little bit of a social media buzz to it, I guess, was I was going to go get ice cream at Ernest Ice Cream for my girlfriend on Quebec Street. And then when I walk by, I see all of these posters saying, missing, have you seen him, Bryant Reeves? And from your conversation, it turns out that this was a promo that accidentally turned out into a huge marketing campaign for you.
Yeah.
Tell me more about, how these posters ended up going up there and then all of a sudden generating all of this buzz in Vancouver.
Oh, my gosh. For sure. It was so we partnered with a great Street Dreams are the amazing dudes who designed all our graphics. And our goal was to always make these missing and have you seen these men posters. But I wanted to, when we were going to premiere, I wanted to plaster the city with them. But I wanted them to have like our social media handles, like at Finding Big Country, or like our premiere date or our website or something. So that was always the goal with these posters. But we had to shoot, we had a photo shoot for the poster of the film, and I'm sure people have seen it. It's a shot of me with my Bryant Reeves jersey spinning a basketball, looking at a bunch of posters on the wall. And these posters on the wall didn't have any Finding the Country on them because, of course, the title Finding the Country would go on the actual poster. So I didn't want to have the title twice. So these posters just had missing and have you seen this man? And so we did a photo shoot, and at the end of the shoot, I think it was either my stepdad or my producer, they were like, "Hey, I think you should. Why don't we leave these up here? These look kind of cool." And I was kind of hesitant because I was like, but there's no information, like no one's going to know what this is. And they're like, and there's only 6 posters. So they're like, no, let's just leave them. It looks kind of cool. So I was like, okay, that's like, sure, why not? And then literally the next day there was a media frenzy ensued, and it took us by surprise. Like none of us knew that just 6 random posters that we left from an old photo shoot would cause such a media frenzy. But yes, someone tweeted it, and then thankfully someone who saw the tweet, who knew about the film, tagged me in it. And then from that, like 3 articles were written by The Province, Vancouver's Awesome, and Daily Hive. And it was this really cool way to like naturally introduce the film to all of Vancouver, and kind of got the buzz going that, hey, there's a film that's happening, but we don't know too much about it. So it was a complete pro-marketing mistake. And then later on, when we knew we were premiering at VIF, we made more of these posters, and my buddy Josh did all the wheat posters, and he just went crazy, and everyone just saw them, kept seeing them everywhere. And you can actually see that a lot of people have been trying to tear them down, because you can see that they've been trying to rip off from the sides, which is really cool. So that's the story of the missing posters. Kind of cool one.
I'm right in there with that social media frenzy. For like a week, I was just going mad as far as like, okay, what does this mean? Is there a purpose to this? Is there an end goal? Like, I need to know. So yeah, marketing promo gone wrong turns into marketing frenzy for your movie.
Yeah.
Congratulations. That's great.
Thank you.
So
thank you.
How does it feel to be the only one? Like, there are people who are paid. There are people who are, their full-time job is to find people, interview people for sports, and develop articles. So how does it feel to be the only one who has been able to get in contact with Bryant Reeves in the past 15 years?
It definitely feels very special. I mean, I think the thing that helped me, though, is that I was a childhood fan. And because I led with that, because I wasn't attached to anyone, because I didn't say, hey, Brian, I'm with so-and-so and I want to write a story about or make a film about you. I led with, hey, Brian, I'm a childhood fan. I flew myself out here because the Grizzlies inspired me as a kid. And it's my dream to tell your story. Can you help me? And I think that is one of the reasons why he said yes. And so, yeah, I think it's definitely something super special. And, to be honest, we did try to get him to Vancouver for the premiere, and I was hoping that he would have come. But looking back, it's so not in his character. He doesn't need the limelight. He didn't need this film being made, and it kind of makes the fact that he did this even more special. It was like, I'm only going to talk for like 5 days, and then that's it. Then I don't need to do this anymore.
Gates are closed.
Which I really respect and admire about him. you know, what you see is what you get, and he's just living his life in Oklahoma and is super happy, and I'm super grateful, that he was open to do this for a few days, but now has just gone back to everyday life and is just doing his thing.
Yeah, a small girl from Vancouver and gets the interview. I mean, it's a great story.
Yeah.
So your film, aside from being sold out for every showing and getting additional showing, it won the People's Choice Awards at the Vancouver International Film Festival. Did you know there were that many Vancouver Grizzlies fans left who felt passionate about it? Like, we're approaching pop culture status here. Like, how does that feel as a director? Like
that's a really good point. No, it feels, oh man, we've definitely tapped into something special. I always knew that there was an audience for this film, but I can like honestly say that the response exceeded my own expectations. Whenever you talk to anyone on the streets who grew up in Vancouver, even though there are no physical remnants of the team here in Vancouver, that's something that the film brings up. If you talk to anyone on the streets, everyone has a memory of the Grizzlies, whether it be Big Country, like Super Grizz, our mascot, or like Michael Jordan coming to town and beating us. Like, there are all these iconic Grizzlies moments and Grizzlies memories that we all still have that are buried somewhere in the psyche. And I think this film just was it was just a way for us to relive and bring back those memories that we might have buried. So it's been super cool to see how responsive Vancouver is, and I think this just shows how much basketball has grown in our city and how much we need and want a team. And that's obviously the next goal, or one of the goals for this film, is to help get the conversation going to get a team back to Vancouver. The Grizzlies were a huge part of my childhood, and I think that's what's missing in the future generation of athletes, and I really want that for this generation.
Wow. Yeah, I mean, I think that having a team within Vancouver would be absolutely amazing again. I try and make sure that there's a strong group of at least 20 of us to go to those preseason games whenever the NBA is in town. It's definitely the goal. I mean, you mentioned your favorite Grizzly moments talking to people. So, I mean, I was born in 1992. So as a small child, that's when I grew up. I didn't start getting into basketball until the Grizzlies had basically become defunct. But, as my passion for basketball grew, I looked into them more. And I can tell you, my favorite Vancouver Grizzlies moment was that losing to Michael Jordan, where we were up, we were winning, it looked good, and then he decided that it wasn't going to be our night and just literally took over.
Took it away.
So what is your favorite Grizzlies moment? And if you asked Bryant Reeves if he had a particular basketball moment that he really remembered being special in his time in Vancouver?
I think one of my favorite moments was, my brother was at that Michael Jordan game. I'm still jealous.
You didn't get to go?
No, I didn't get to go, but he was there, which was really cool. At least someone that I was related to was there. But I was starstruck when I saw Charles Barkley. I think he was one of the most famous athletes that I saw, and we were sort of sitting right where the players go in and out of the change room. So that was so cool just to see him up close. I think my favorite parts of the game were sort of just at the beginning when you're just walking into the arena and that excitement, the music blaring, and you can see everyone just getting so excited. I think that feeling is what I remember most. And I always, whenever I went to, and this is maybe why I have so much Grizzlies gear, whenever I went to a game, my dad would always say I could buy something that was super small at the gift shop. So that was really cool. I used to, and this is something that Bryant signed. I had this really small Grizzlies basketball, and it was like my teddy bear. I used to sleep with it at night. So that was another cool memory. I when I asked Bryant what his favorite memory was, it was all sort of like, he kind of says it in the film, like they were all great. Like there was not one kind of memory that kind of sticks out with him. I think 17 years ago was a long time ago for him. So he couldn't get into too specifics, but he obviously, like, playing against Michael Jordan was obviously one of his great memories. Also, I mean, it was really cool. This line didn't make the film, but he says, you know, playing with all of them, like, and he starts naming like all the NBA greats, like Patrick Ewing, Olajuwon, you know, Mutombo, and it was just so cool in that moment. I was like, I can't believe I'm speaking to someone who has played with all these legendary centers. So that was a really cool moment as well.
I mean, the film touches on that briefly with Shaquille O'Neal in one of the segments, saying, you know, that it wasn't even played with, competed at that level, didn't back down, and was very, you know, as much as the injuries did take a large toll on him, he was a competitor till the end, definitely. Well, this has been amazing. I mean, this is so insightful. I really appreciate you coming on, Kat. This has been eye-opening, and I hope that, you know, moving forward, Finding Big Country can continue to grow into maybe finding the NBA team for Vancouver.
Yeah.
But what are your next steps for the film, and what's your upcoming projects now that this has gotten the ball rolling? What's next for Kat Jayme?
And so it's definitely it's that feature-length documentary now about the Vancouver Grizzlies. So you know, I always knew that there was a bigger story to tell, and you know, with Finding Big Country, we only touch on the Grizzlies enough to understand Bryant's story. But through my research this past few years, there's just so much more to say about the Grizzlies, and I've met so many people who have stories, and so it's still in early development, but are going to hit the ground running, and hopefully going to find some more Vancouver Grizzlies, the ensemble cast, and hopefully maybe Steve Francis. He's on the wish list. I would love to talk to him and pick his brain. So Steve Francis, if you're listening, I'm coming for you.
There you go, Steve. Yeah, if you listen to the Give and Go podcast, Kat's trying to talk, so I know you're open to discussion. So give her a shout.
Yeah.
Awesome. Well, listen, this is like I said, been amazing. Thank you so much for taking the time. Really appreciate that. Obviously, now you're an icon within Vancouver and the basketball community. So we wish you the best in all your future endeavors, and we look forward to when that Vancouver Grizzlies documentary comes out. You'll find me in line for those tickets. So.
Amazing. Thank you so much, Jordan. I really appreciate being on your show. Thank you.
Hey, no problem. Thanks, Kat. Okay. Bye.
Bye.
Wow, that was amazing. Well, thanks to Kat Jayme once again, and thank you to Jordan for lining up that interview. You did great, man. You did great. So, this has been another episode of the Give and Go podcast with your host, Rajan Sharma, and your co-host, Jordan Taylor. We'd like to once again remind you to follow us on all our social media platforms. Special shout out to Rakesh Sharma, who's been running our social media platforms now. You can find us on Twitter, Instagram at Give the letter N Go Podcast. And you can also subscribe and follow to us on SoundCloud, YouTube, and wherever else you go to find your podcasts that you'd like to listen to. Also, you can find us on basketbrawlers.ca, our official sponsor of the Give and Go podcast. Now we've given you the information. Now go do something with it. Give and Go. And we out.